Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. Since the 1950s, it has been impossible to retain the Serie A title and win it back to back, unless, of course, you are Inter, Milan, or Juventus, the so-called big teams that are used to winning. But what does that actually mean? It means that these clubs have the foundations to open cycles once they start winning, and they know how to manage the pressure and expectations of having just won the title. Now guys, let me open a brief parenthesis here and tell you the anecdote of the last time that Napoli won the title. The season was 1989-1990, and with the help of Diego Armando Maradona, Napoli win the Serie A with an average of 2.08 points per game. Now, back then, the point system was a little bit different and they only had 18 teams. But if we convert that points average to today's Serie A, it would be roughly 79 points to have won the title. Not bad, not amazing, but not bad. The next year, their title defense was not that much better than what we have been doing now, with Napoli finishing 8th. With an average points per game of just 1.4, which brought them to roughly 53-54 points for the season. This current Napoli team is expected to do a little bit better than that, but you never really know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that for teams that are not Inter, Juve, and Milan, managing a Scudetto is extremely difficult. And part of the reason why is because as a club, as a city, as the players and the agents of the players, maybe we didn't set the right foundations and we are not ready to go to that next step with too many people showing too much inexperience. Now, we've spoken at great lengths about how inexperienced the coaches have been, or maybe that they were inadequate for the job. We've also talked about the inadequacy and maybe the foolishness of the people at the top of the club, sporting director and the president himself, making all sorts of wrong decisions. But there's another element in the system that we don't often talk about, but that it seriously affects the team, and that is the people closest to the players, whether that be their agent or whether that be a representative in some sort of way, a friend that's a very public figure. These people are people that maybe are not used to certain situations. Napoli historically is a team that doesn't go and buy champions. They buy up-and-coming players, transform them into great players. And the problem with that is that oftentimes they are, for the first time, in the situation that they have won silverware. Now, in the case of Osimhen and Kvara, it's very clear that there's a bit of inexperience going on. And it's clear that after a Scudetto and the great season that they've had, they want to start cashing in on the players in various different ways, whether that be a wealthy new contract with God knows what kind of commission and potentially a promise to sell this player on in the near future with another big commission, or just trying to stir the waters to have people realize that this player is open for a move. And that's unfortunately what's been happening with Napoli. Before speaking specifically about Osimhen and Kvara, I want to take a little step back and speak about another agent. This is Mario Giuffredi, who is the agent of 4 Napoli players: Gaetano, Naples-born, Matteo Politano, Mario Rui, and last but not least, Captain Giovanni Di Lorenzo. Now, Giuffredi is an agent that is very vocal in the Napoli world because he is a local guy. He is from Naples. He has a lot of players that have been associated also in the past with De Laurentiis, players such as Hizai, for example. So there's a history of working with Napoli, and he knows very well what goes on behind the scene. The thing is that every summer before the season starts, or whenever we seem to have a bad season, Giuffredi speaks a little bit too much about his clients. But what he says about the players and the dressing room needs to be taken seriously, because he knows many of the players, he knows the environment, and when he said in August that if Mauro Rui doesn't renew, he is going to be an unhappy player in a dressing room of unhappy players, I think we all underestimated that comment and didn't read enough into it. See, when he came out with those quotes, we all thought and focused a little bit too much on Mauro Rui and the fact that he wants a renewal. What we didn't maybe focus on enough was the fact that maybe there is a dressing room of unhappy players. Now, why might that be? Well, I think we mentioned it a little bit earlier. See, all these players that maybe haven't won in the past come to Napoli with this grand ambition to win the Scudetto. And once you win the Scudetto, you are forever going to be a legend and you basically get eternal glory. What does that mean? That means mission accomplished. Whereas in other teams that are used to winning, they're able to reset, because winning one title doesn't guarantee you eternal glory. And so they reset and they try to win again. The Napoli players maybe went into this season with a little bit less drive and a little bit less motivation, because it's as if they had already achieved what they set out to achieve with this Napoli shirt. There was nothing else to really do here. And that means that they were all looking around at either a better contract within Napoli if they like to stay here, or more realistically for some of the younger players, a bigger and better contract at a different club, a club such as Barcelona, Real Madrid, or Bayern. And I know, again, that De Laurentiis is a problem, and the coaches are a problem, and the tactics are a problem, and the transfers are a problem, but fundamentally, this team is a team where I believe a lot of these players are looking at their own self-interest this year more than an average group of players would. And ultimately, the issue between Kvara's agent and Osimhen is a little bit the mirror of all this. Now, if you have been under a rock recently and haven't heard what happened, Kvara's agent came out in an interview saying that Kvara is one of the top 3 players around the world. Of course, he's had talks with some of the bigger clubs, and Kvara is ready to make a move elsewhere. Now, if he had stopped there, it would have just been like, oh, another agent speaking a little bit out of place, wrong time, wrong tone, and could have really avoided it. But this guy went a little bit further and started speaking about Victor Osimhen, who's not his client, and said that Kvara would never accept an offer from Saudi Arabia, not even if it was €1 billion, unlike Osimhen, and Osimhen will go to Saudi Arabia. Now, all in one, he's basically said that Osimhen does not have the same ambitions as Kvara, and also that he's a bit of a mercenary. He's also said something so categorically, not, oh, I think that Osimhen will go there, but he said Osimhen will go there. Now, if this agent has true factual information that the rest of us don't have, such as that Osimhen already has an agreement to leave Napoli, maybe for Saudi Arabia, as he seems to suggest, then it suggests that not only Kvara, but the rest of the changing room also knows this, and it contributes to a negative atmosphere in the dressing room, because you know that your best player is leaving you. But regardless of whether players are already plotting their next move and their colleagues know about this, an agent should never talk about someone that is not his client, because as Victor Osimhen's agent replied, this puts Victor in a very difficult spot with both the club, his teammates, and the fans. And I don't know if Kvara's agent orchestrated this and is trying to put players, fans, and club one against each other, or if this was just a slip up. But either way, this is not the way to go about things, and it shows a clear lack of experience from this agent. The same type of lack of experience that Victor Osimhen himself has sometimes demonstrated, his agent has sometimes demonstrated, and also his entourage, because he has people posting things on Twitter, then deleting them, creating all sorts of scenes. It's just not a good look right now for Napoli. It really doesn't help morale. The way to solve this is clearly to, step one, at least try to get a better, more assertive sporting director, because the chances of us changing the president is very slim. And then afterwards, it's to, with contracts, bind players and agents from making such remarks. But even then, even if you have a good sporting director and all sorts of clauses in the contract, I'm sure that agents would still find a way to agitate the waters if they feel it's in the interest of their client. And unfortunately, that is the price to pay if you're a team like Napoli, that you are seen to some extent as a stepping stone. And unlike other teams that are seen as stepping stones, Napoli is a very unique situation. Let me go deeper in this. Let's take a random team that could also be considered a stepping stone. Let's say Marseille in France, right? If a player from a lower league goes to Marseille, for example, he sees this as a great opportunity to then go to another club like PSG or Bayern or Barcelona or Real Madrid, right? But the agent and the player doesn't actually have that much bargaining power, because at most they can say that this player has contributed to having Marseille reach the Champions League. And that's pretty much about it. Whereas when you go and you win a Scudetto with Napoli, all of a sudden you can start saying, well, actually, my client has won silverware and contributed to something historic. So all of a sudden now you have way more bargaining power and you can sell your client that much better in terms of his abilities and what he's able to achieve. So the curse that Napoli has is that not only is it a bit of a stepping stone club, but that it's also, let's say, overachieved. And this gives even more power to the players and agents. Anyways, guys, all this is a total mess. This season could be a reality TV show, a drama, whatever you call it. We just have to wake up every morning and hope that the ship has not definitively sunk, and just try to get to shore at the end of the season. And then from there, maybe build again with new players that are more motivated, really try to screen some of their agents as well, and try to open a new cycle that way and take lesson from this year in case we win something massive in the future again. Anyways, guys, if you've made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you for the next one. Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.